Again, had open date, not a lot to talk about. A couple practices, a lot of guys got some heel time, some young guy work. Same time with two open dates later in the year, a little different mindset. So I think we did okay. You had some work last night with not having a game to review, so we had some work last night, got off to a good start. Coaches recruited a little bit, looked a lot at ourselves. We really didn't start Michigan until last night because typically, you just kind of work the week. So last week, a little bit about us, trying to get our guys fresh, get them healthy, a little bit of young guy work, a lot of work with the quarterbacks, figuring out things we like with those guys in the situation. And looking forward to a tremendous opportunity and challenge to go to Michigan on Saturday. Questions?
What is the biggest challenge of going to Michigan, especially with a freshman quarterback who hasn't played in front of that kind of crowd? There's no real way to recreate that. What is the biggest challenge you face?
We do enough all the time with our snap counts and communication with, whatever you say, just with the music, to get used to communicating. So you try to facilitate the communicating as you play. Of course, he's been with us and on the road, so he's been in arenas, but hadn't been under fire except the one game at home. So, all you do is you talk about what you can control. If you can control your communication, get everybody on the same page, make sure our snap counts and handle the ball, then it just comes back to keeping your eyes on the field and not getting caught up with what's going on around it. So, same time, you can make too much of it, I'm sure. A guy thinks he understands what it's like to play against a good opponent until you get out there and wow, that happened a little faster and I get a little hyper, a little quick like last game. So until, he and the team keeps going through things. But a lot of guys have been through it. He'll just have to manage it. We'll have to put him in good situations best we can. But he'll have to manage some things, ebb and flow, good and bad. I'm sure he'll have some poor plays. He's got to manage it. I'm sure he'll do some good things and don't get too hyped up. So bottom line, we'll just put our plan together, talk about what we can control, and put him in a good situation, go play.
What did you like about the way your team approached the bye?
Well, again, we came in Sunday after the last game and looked at really just what, we thought we could address or look at from a video standpoint. Didn't really physical work. We did our physical work on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Had one long, good practice day. The rest of the time was some lifting and some installation, instruction, walkthrough, not as physical as stuff. And then last night, typically when we don't have a hard practice, we had a pretty good go. So, we had talked in advance of the thought process. The guys had a couple days based on their academic schedule. We didn't do anything Friday except classes. Saturday was off, so if you're local, you had a chance to get home. I know some guys want to see some family members that hadn't been home in a couple months because we kept them here the first open date. It was so early. So the first open day was like a work week. This was like a little bit of a get fresh week for the 5 weeks remaining. We got a lot in front of us with a trip to Michigan, Penn State coming here, our first trip East Coast to New York, going to Columbus, and then finish with the bucket game. So there's a lot of football to play. We talked about that, showed them that, just had our thought process and getting ready to have as good a week as we can for our Michigan prep.
Where are you guys from an injury standpoint?
Nothing has changed. Jason Spriggs, is doing some light work and back, should play. We'll see as we really work tomorrow and Wednesday. He's been out there every day, and at the same time, we haven't overdone it. And basically, he just got a hit that went into almost, I'd not being doctor, but I would say it was more of a whiplash hit. Wasn't a concussion. Wasn't really, stinger, nerve related, just some spasming in the upper shoulder. So I think he'll be fine. Everybody else is pretty good. And the way we did things in practice. Now, we had one really good old-fashioned, almost like a preseason or a spring ball practice last week. We had a really good go last night with a lot of energy that I was very excited about. Thought our old players handled it good. But we didn't do a lot last week where anything's worse. I think we're a lot better, a lot fresher. And we'll see where we stack up at, Terry. Yeah, he got a knee, kind of got a little bit of a high low and got a call. He came back, tried to play. We thought he was gimpy. He's been practicing. I wouldn't say he's full tilt yet, but I think by the time we go Tuesday, Wednesday, we'll see. And you got Zach Shaw and Robert McCray played the rest of that Michigan State in the second half. So, we're 3 deep there. He was practicing last night. I still think coaches are trying to be smart in the situations and his confidence and strength level as we go this week. He should be good.
What are your impressions of Michigan?
very good on defense. Statistically, week after, they're sitting at a record that's I'm sure not what they like in their standard, but now they've lost to 5 teams that are ranked or have played pretty good football if you look at it. I think Rutgers now maybe is at 5-3. They beat Penn State at their place, but you used to lose to Utah that's rated, Notre Dame is rated, Michigan State's been playing awfully good, Minnesota, was rated. I mean, they've played a tough schedule. Very, very stout on defense, very good in run defense. Offensively, they lit us up last year and had a big game. They struggled a little bit. The quarterback has made plays, has been very dynamic against us. Funchess, the receiver, one of the better players in the league, a top pro prospect kind of guy. I think they've had a couple running back injuries, but when they've played well. I think the win they had outing before last was very, very solid against Penn State, and evident by the way they won. I think last week they were playing solid ball, a little bit like we did against Michigan State, maybe ran out a little bit of gas. Michigan State's a good team, but I think they're very solid. I think it's going to be a strong test for us.
Is this a game that really, not that you wouldn't want this every week, but the defense really needs to step up to take some pressure off the offense, take some pressure off the Xander?
For sure. And, we have played the last couple of years when we have played where our defense has had a very large part of that. Whether you can take the numbers and skew it, but when we've played good run defense, when we have had stops, third down stops, and minimized points, we've had our successful games. So whether it be this week, the following week, weeks to come, and that's been a point of address, not because, we're playing a young quarterback or the offense isn't playing quite as good as we'd like for it to play, but our defense needs to continue to improve and step up. And it gives us a better chance of winning. And as we put our game plan together, we got to put it together to structure in a way that gives it a chance, but they need to get some stops. And they've shown it sometimes, but we got to be a lot more consistent. And so I'd love to see it this week, but not this week. I'd like to start seeing those guys really step up. We've talked about it. We've addressed it. Had a good start with our practice last night. I'd like to see those guys play a lot better. And I'd like to see them just play up to their capabilities, which I think will give us a chance to be very competitive and have a chance to win games.
Is the quarterback open competition, or are you still pretty much committed to Xander to start at Michigan?
I guess he maybe goes out there first unless we have a poor week. But I don't know, again, if there's ever a point where, anyone's got anything, ironed up. So, David, I wouldn't say it's, like he's, he needs to play well. And again, last game we had some guys open and he didn't play poorly. I didn't like, the ball got loose a little bit a couple times, didn't haunt him, but moving forward good. But he was just to me, just a little out of rhythm and hyper and missed some things that were there. So we've worked, even though the team didn't do a lot, we actually did some extra stuff with our quarterbacks to just try and increase their time on task, their rhythm, their meeting time, et cetera, without, falling within the guidelines. But for example, the kids had Friday off and Saturday off, but I know the young quarterbacks actually got a little bit of work, just kind of keep them moving along just with some fundamental stuff. So we'll see. I mean, right now, it's not his job to lose, but it's his job to play better and help us win.
How important was the bye week for him in particular, just so he could wrap his head around and have a little rest, wrap his head around the position?
Yeah, again, this, next year we'll be on a 13-week schedule. If one bye, this year it's 2. I think, we had talked a lot with our team that this week was weeks ago. It's set up to be a week to try to get us a point to finish strong because we thought the last 5 games would be critical to our season. The road trip this week, Penn State coming in, 2 more road trips and a bucket game. So we kind of targeted weeks ago that last week was a key week to get our football team physically and mentally right. Now, some things have always happened with whatever injuries that you happen to overcome. So we're at a different place with the quarterback deal. So maybe we've heightened, his awareness or urgency, or not him, just Nate, Danny, Cameron, all the guys we're working at. Because, again, we got to play well at that position. At the same time, they will play well when the supporting cast plays better. Each game, we've had 1 or 2 drops that have been big play drops. We've had scoring opportunities. We've had defensive opportunities with some picks and turnovers. We've let them off the board. So the team's got to play better for the quarterback too. So it's not just about Xander playing better. Those quarterbacks always look good when the team plays well, and we're going to need the team to pick it up. And if that being said, then they'll do better. So I think it's not pressure. It's just down the stretch, good teams play better, winning teams play better. We've talked about that early in the year. If we're a good program, we continue to improve, and that's our challenge, to make sure we improve and play our best this week and the weeks to come.
For him in 3 weeks ago, he didn't think he was going to be playing this year. And now he's the starting quarterback, starting at Michigan. For him in particular, just that week to kind of wrap his head around everything he has to do, how important is that?
Well, I would trust if a guy's playing here that if he's thinking he's not playing, then he's not helping us win. Because if that's your thought process, then you've got ground you can't make up. So you need to ask him. 3 weeks ago, he thought he was never playing. Because if that's the case, we'd have had him on the scout team and totally up. He was with us. He was traveling. The reps are limited because you got ones and twos. But the thought process all along, that's why he graduated and came here early. I don't think he graduated in January to come here and sit out. So, that'd be a question I guess you might want to address to him, because I don't know what his thought process was, other than ours is, everyone's got to answer the call when ready. And in the first game, I think he got a little bit hyper. Had a great week of practice. We can talk about that. They were blue in the face. You got to go play. Now that he's played, we'll see how we go week 2. It's going to be on the road. That's a different challenge. Another very, very good defense. And again, we're not going to be a team that, we've got to play the field. We got to get the ball in space. We got to get it down the field, in the perimeter. We got to do things we do. You don't change mid-season to be completely different. You emphasize things you can do well, but he's got to throw the ball. He's got to play well. But more than that, the protection, the run game, and his receivers and tight ends got to play well. And the defense has got to give him the ball. And so I would trust that no player I would trust our players that are redshirting aren't waiting till next year, because he who waits doesn't win in college football. You're getting better. And I would hope he's been getting better. And that's what we tell him. You need to ask him what his thoughts are. I know he's coached. We'll see how he plays.
Are you not making Xander available to media this week just because you think he's got too much on his plate?
Yeah, I don't know. The story on Xander, he threw for 11 yards. So he needs to work instead of talk. Let his play talk. So I'll talk for him.
I've heard a lot about Danny Cameron. Is he getting more snaps?
Yeah, he's kind of in that role Xander was. He's kind of 3 with Nate. So now, he was on doing some scout stuff. So now he's kind of in the mix to, in that, emergency role per se. He was a guy that we got a lot of extra stuff with, an individual and film time here as we, did a few extra things to try to help those guys. But he's the third behind Nate, and it's just because of time on task. He didn't get as much of the summer. We're pleased with him. We wouldn't have offered him. We offered him because we thought he could help us in case some things happen. So, at the time when the situation happened this summer and all of a sudden we had a void at quarterback, we looked around. We thought that was an option that could help us. And right now he's our third. So he's getting some reps, a lot of individual, a lot more work, a lot more film study, a lot more in the meeting time. He's with the varsity, but it's limited game reps because Xander and Nate need those, just like earlier it was Sudfeld and Covington. So it's a similar role.
Pick up things faster?
Excuse me?
Is his football background helping pick things up?
Yeah, quite honestly, there are some things, and that's a good question, where his comments and conversations show he's been around it, because sometimes he'll actually say something and see something quicker when you're sitting together than Xander or Nate would. So, his dad's a coach. At the same time, I did a little bit with the quarterbacks this week extra. I had my 2 kids there. My little guy was a center, so he's snapping. Does that mean he's going to be a good center? I don't know. At the same time, as a dad, sometimes you like to be a dad and not coach your kids. So I don't know how much Cam really coached his kids. Sometimes as a coach, be careful you don't force your kids to play ball. You find them. So, he's been around it a lot. He's been around a lot of great players, and he's very, very smart. And at the same time, I think he developed late in high school, and he's developing now. I think there's a lot of physical development he's going through. He's grown. He's getting more mature. He's got a solid football mind for a young guy, but he's young. And to say because his dad's a coach, he's got it all. And really the thing is, you can sit there and watch tape all the time. I always say, I can run it back 20 times and say in a minute what you should have done. But when you're playing ground level, here it is, a view up high, you can see everything. But when you're ground level and the vision of seeing guys going backwards, forwards, crossing, things coming at you, things going sideways, and to feel and see spaces. Some guys can see that and process that. And you can watch a lot of tape, but you got to have the ability to have that vision on the field. And some guys that are, quote, football smart in a film study cannot see that on the field. And that's the thing, Danny haven't played as much. I know he's a very football smart guy, but his time on task with reps is limited, just like Xander. So what do you see when you're playing? That's a question we ask him all the time that I don't know. Like, what are you seeing and what are you thinking? Are you thinking you're not playing? Did you think the corner, do you think the safety rotated strong? what do you see and what do you think? And when you're dealing with young players, that's just one of our best ways of coaching, is really to understand what they're thinking, what they're seeing, so we can kind of get on the same page. Instead of telling them what to do, you need to understand what they see and think. I think that's a key to coaching that position.
Any thoughts about putting cameras on their helmets to get that sense of what?
Yeah, every time I look at that, I've never been a motion sickness guy, but every time I watch a film of them and they're around, I almost get like motion sick. Like, I'm not a car sick or air sick dude, but it bounces so much, I don't know how you see things, because the guy's moving around and all that deal. So, we haven't done some guys that do it, and a lot of great coaches have. We haven't done that GoPro stuff on the helmet yet. But one of the things we do in practice, even though you might only have one guy throwing, the second quarterback and third quarterback stand behind and they play the play, because I might be 5 yards or 6 yards deeper than the quarterback, but I can see things, and we can tell right there without a ball, hey, why did you throw? Because he actually throws without a ball. Hey, you're throwing here and the rotation is here. Shouldn't you be going this way? So we try to cheat the system, but I've never been a GoPro guy. I don't know. I start running around. I don't know if you guys ever looked at that. Don't you think it looks it's hard? I mean, it's hard. I think the worst thing to do is to tell the guy what he sees. I'm showing you what I see, but what did you see? And then it's teaching them how to get their eyes where they need to go, and really how to clear clutter out of your mind. What are you thinking? Like a comment after the last game, well, I thought the linebacker, whoa. The linebackers aren't a problem here. We've got them blocked. They're not a concern. They're not a read. Your concern is out here. Why are you thinking? That's clutter. So now I want to eliminate that thought process, because that's wasted info, and that's causing your timing, rhythm, your read to be off, because you're thinking about things that don't exist.
Indiana did some nice things for Tevin Coleman this week, with putting out some interesting statistics and video and stuff like that. Was that just an opportunity to do that during the bye week? Or?
Yeah, haven't we been doing that for several weeks? So it's been like a Twitter going out. I don't know if you guys follow our football stuff, but you guys been twittering out about 4, 5, 6 weeks, the number of stats, number of yards. I think we had a chance with our crew downstairs. I think it was actually our football guys that did the football video that shared, because our video guys do a great job, Joel and Brent and his crowd. So, we just had a chance open date to throw some clips together. But we've been, I think, putting out some stuff. And not only does it go local, but sometimes I know we're doing stuff that goes around to people that look at accolades and honors and kind of keep that moving forward. But I think, we started that, and not just for him. We started a year ago with the receivers and things those guys are doing. It's just kind of, we use it a lot in recruiting. So, because everything that we put out public, and it's a public channel, can then be used as a recruiting device. So, I know our guys downstairs are part of our recruiting department. I know we work a lot with our sports information guys, how to tag branding to sell the product and what we're trying to get done.
Coach, you mentioned the last 5 games have been critical for you guys, but Michigan's probably thinking the same thing. They're kind of in the same boat, and even kind of emphasizing how a win this week could change the direction of the rest of the season.
And you're saying that for?
I'm just like, have you talked about at all about the team, with the team, about how a win could change the direction?
Well, no doubt we're sitting at 3 and 4. It's not as good as you want and disappointing. At the same time, we've shown some good things. And there's some other teams that have comparable records that seem to have positive energy. I want to make sure our guys do. And that's what we talked about last night. Like, hey, I can't go backwards and change the result, but we can go forward. When we've played hard, we've been very competitive, we've had some success. And with the games to come, they're going to be difficult challenges, but if you play hard, you got a chance for some success. So I don't think you play hard Saturday just by talking about it with the pregame speech or the night before. At the same time, I don't think we need to over practice, because we got 2-a-days. We've now played 7 games, open dates. This is now the 10th week of the season, not counting preseason. So that being said, what are you doing to create your energy? So, I mean, to me, we haven't won there in a long, long time. It's a great program that we've not had a lot of success with previously, but it's this team this year. And we're sitting at 3 and 4. They're 3 and 5. They've lost to some great teams. They're prideful. It's a prideful program, a great program. They're going to play their tails off. They always have, always will. We're going to have to do the same thing if we want to step up and start having success. So all we've talked about is a lot to play for, not to feel sorry for ourselves, not to have any excuses about anything. Our season is where it is, and there's 5 weeks and a lot to play for. Let's play as hard as we can, do the best we can. We've had a plan through the season of how to go through practice, how to build. We're at a point right now, 3 and 4. How do we keep building? Have a great week up here in Ann Arbor.
With all of those 5 regular season games left, do you see any difference in the way?
Well, you guys said we couldn't be a bowl team, but I think at 8 and 4 we would be, and at 7 and 5, maybe 6 and 6. Of course, it's based on fans that go to games and somebody want to pick you. But So there's 5 games. Yes. Michigan only has 4. They're 3 and 5. I've talked about it because my thing, and I heard a coach say it weeks ago, that as a senior, we're not looking to the future and we're not thinking about the past. We're thinking about right now, this week. And that's what I'm saying for these seniors. Those guys have worked hard and they got 5 weeks and 5 great opportunities. Going to Ann Arbor, you come to the Big Ten, you want to play in those games. And you got a chance back-to-back years to go play there, enjoy the opportunity, enjoy the challenge, playing one of the greatest program, the winningest program, or one of the winningest, I think it was, if not is, the winningest program in college football. I think it is. Then you come back and you're playing Penn State. Another historical program, one of your last 2 home games. Our first trip to the East Coast, great chance going to Rutgers and the excitement and energy of East Coast, what it's bringing to the Big Ten. Going to Columbus, one of the premier programs in college football again, and then finish off with our rival. So with 5 weeks to go, 3 and 4, we came out of open date, talked about getting fresh, talked about focusing on what Xander, our guys, can do, and we talked about what there was to play for. And we think there's a lot to play for. And bottom line, all we're playing for is this week. Today, this week, this prep at Michigan. And that's all we're concentrating on and playing for, and having a good week and going to play as hard as we can and seeing how that matches up against their program.
They've been one of the better rush defenses so far this year. Does the film review back that up?
No doubt. And they do it in a couple different looks, great question, and they do it sometimes without necessarily loading the box. And now, again, they can do that if they want to based on our passing game, but they play good D and not cheating as much as some guys. And it's a credit to their front. Their defensive front's awesome. 2 really good linebackers, one of them the better players in our conference and country. So we've played some good run defenses, but you look at who we're getting ready to play. We're getting ready to play 3 or 4 of the best in our league right in a row. And so we've played a couple good ones. And, we have had some, quote, good rushing stats, but it's been total yards and not consistency. And if you're not consistent in the run game, you get in 3rd and longs. If you get in 3rd and longs, you get off the field. You get off the field, your defense gets tired, and those things kind of, get us not playing the way we need to play. So it's not just running the ball, and these guys are having a run number. It's trying to find some consistency, some first downs, and some touchdowns, and keep our defense off the field. And that'll be a challenge.
As a veteran quarterback with Luke Gardner, when you look at him, what makes him a challenge?
Well, he's a very athletic guy, and at the same time as he's played, I think they've tried to pick their spots of when to use him in the run game. Last year a couple times we had him hemmed in, and then we didn't get a hand on him on some 3rd downs and some chances to make some stops. When he gets on in his passing game, he threw for more yards than anybody can ever throw against us last year. So he's played a lot. He's a veteran. He's throwing to one of the premier players in the country and some other good receivers. If the run game gets going, it really makes it difficult because there's any moment they can do both, because his experience at quarterback and a couple of their receivers, if their running game gets going and they can have balance like any offense, they can be very, very difficult. And that's what happened last year. They had a great passing game, but they ran the ball well enough to have the rhythm, and that's a little bit of our problem now. Can we run the ball consistently enough? Not pop 2 or 3 long runs, but if you run the ball consistently, the box would start to get loaded. You have easy passing. If you don't do that and you're a one-dimensional team, when they've been a two-dimensional team, they've been a very good offense. We're the same way. When we've been two-dimensional and consistent run, we've been okay. And I think that's every offense, that's most offenses in college ball. That's the defensive struggle. And so, again, they've got a much better run defense than we have been. And so, to me, we've ran it on paper a little bit better in yards, but sometimes that's just those big plays. So it's going to be a game of consistency. It's going to be a difficult challenge for us. And, again, with his experience being a 5th-year kid, if he gets rolling, he's one of the better players in our conference at quarterback. Yeah, we tried to really work that through the year. You got some young guys, and you want to get, and that's why when someone said, like, where are the seniors and how they're doing things, my thing is you want to be leaving out here these last 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks the best you've ever practiced, the best energy, the best effort, the best body language, the best attitude, because we're not going to overdo your practice. Trust us in what we're doing. So we've done a lot in our format. We've changed some things to transfer into playing better. My concern is we've been inconsistent in play. And so that's what I'm telling those guys, like, hey, it's your end to hold your end of the bargain. We've stayed true with what we're going to do, with where this program is, as far as how we're going to practice you. You've got to hold your end of the bargain with not going through the motions in practice, not getting lethargic, not getting stale. So we look very, very hard in the offseason about things to go through summer, things to go through preseason, things to go through season to get these guys right. And when we've played good, we've been right. I don't think we've played poorly because we're tired and over-practiced. We haven't changed the routine, anything. And if anything, we're trying to do right now as much as we can in what we call teach periods and schematics lineup versus full go periods. Because I think the one thing we need to do better is when it's game time and full go time, how to play 11 guys fast and flying around. And that's where sometimes I worry that as you practice, don't get lethargic and go through the motions of practice because it creeps into your play. Because you're used to playing at a certain speed in the passing game, your pursuit angles, getting off blocks, staying on blocks, breaking a tackle, whatever. So you don't do full go scrimmages, but we've talked a lot about segments of practice where we ramp it up. And because I thought in that last game, our team got tired, got staled, and we got to figure that out this week moving forward.